Hello, and thank you for coming back to Patient World. Today, we're blessed to have a special guest, Dr. Lucinda Sykes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for welcoming to the show, and I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, I'm certainly glad that you came. Can we get started with some information about you? Introduce yourself and tell us all about you.
Yes. Well, I am a retired Canadian physician. For the last 25 years, I have taught medical programs of mindfulness. And before that, I worked for many years in family medicine and in family medicine-based psychotherapy. But then I discovered the real value of mindfulness for such a wide range of medical conditions that, gosh, I established a clinic in Toronto. We are called Meditation for Health, and we were very happily teaching programs until COVID hit, of course, and then we had to stop all in-person teaching. But I'm rather a resilient soul, and I was able now to kind of shift into a new way of work. And my focus now is to help women over 50 sleep more deeply. I'm interested in restorative sleep for women. That's been a long time interest of mine. I come from a family where the women had sleep problems. And earlier in my career, I had sleep problems too. That was part of my motivation in learning so much about sleep science. And now these years of teaching mindfulness, I've had many patients with sleep problems. So once I found that I could no longer teach in person, I very naturally have shifted to this interest.
Great. Okay. I've had so many patients in my career who has sleep problems.
Yes.
That's huge. And a lot of people, they would want refills on their medications and, besides the side effects and so forth, that could be problematic. So now you've taught us a little bit about yourself. Could you give us some information about the things that you teach and what you recommend?
Well, gosh, you've already got me going, and I'm so glad to hear you speaking about the risks of sleeping medications. That too is close to my heart. My grandmother succumbed to Alzheimer's far too early in life, and she took sleeping medications, so far as I know, all her adult years. And now the research is confirming, in fact, that our risk for Alzheimer's and dementia is increased if we take sleeping pills.
That's
And
profound.
isn't that, it's disturbing to me that we have research going back to 2012 showing these very serious side effects to dependence on sleeping pills. And yet, nonetheless, they are being prescribed. And I think that probably most patients do not know that they are risky. And as well,
I
the
agree
sleep scientists
completely.
tell us that they do not induce natural sleep. So it's true that you're not awake, but your brain is not in a natural sleeping state. And hence we have the problems down the road with the brain, the Alzheimer's and other dementias. And further, we know now that sleeping pills are related to, gosh, I hate to say it, but an increased risk of mortality, an increased risk of infections and some forms of cancer, and further an increased risk of accidents.
Oh,
So there's
absolutely.
not a lot good to be said about sleeping pills, except, and I think a responsible physician would agree with me, they're so useful when our patient is just, maybe they've suffered a bereavement or a romantic problem, or they've lost their job and they just can't sleep. Well, gosh, a week or two of sleeping medications
Short
can
term is
really,
completely
really,
different from several years.
yes, you've got it exactly. And the regulatory bodies, both in North American medicine and into Europe too, they all inform and even uh, offer guidelines that sleeping medications should not be used for longer than 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks maximum. But again and again, patients and their doctors, for whatever reason, are disregarding that. And because of my grandmother, at this stage in my career, I really want to get the word out about the risks involved.
And those are profound risks, and most people are completely unaware. Most doctors, I think,
Yes.
are unaware. I didn't know about the association with Alzheimer's disease. This is very significant. And I was a primary care doctor for a long time, and then I became a hospital-based physician. And between the decades that I was in an office or the hospital, I could not begin to tell you how many patients I had who came in on a variety of sleep medications.
Yes, yes, I'm astonished too. And if we had the time, I could show you research study after research study, very credible work confirming what I've detailed for you. And part of the problem is, understandably, that when we take a sleeping medication, we do tend to fall asleep more rapidly, although some of the research says we only get an extra 10 or 20 minutes of sleep. But nonetheless, we fall asleep more rapidly, and we think that when we wake up in the morning, that we had a night's sleep. But in actual fact, when we look at brainwave patterns and other studies of our sleeping state, it's not the same as a natural sleeping state. And we don't realize that, although many people, when they do use sleeping medications in the morning, they notice a kind of grogginess or a hangover feeling. And there can be other changes too that they notice even throughout the day as a consequence of having been, shall we say, intoxicated with the sleeping pill. It's not that we've had a natural night of sleep.
Okay. And there are so many different types of sleeping pills out there. Some are over the counter and some are prescription strength. And so even if people don't see their doctors, they may still be on long-term sleeping aids.
Yes, the antihistamine-based sleep aids and a few other types that we can purchase without requiring a prescription. And they have their risks as well. And even now in Canada, cannabinoid medications are legal, and they too they are all of them changing the chemistry of the brain rather than inviting the brain to enter sleep. And this is ideally what we want, is we want to care for ourselves in such a way that we encourage the body to enter natural sleep every night. Because the body does know how to sleep, but there's often an imbalance or a lifestyle factor that is interfering with that. So ideally, we want to address that.
Certainly. So what would you say would be the first step for somebody who's been used to taking sleep aids for a long time?
Well, the first is to talk to your doctor. Because especially if you have been taking sleep aids, sleep medications for a period, you wouldn't want to just stop like that, because you will have developed a kind of tolerance to the medication and there will be a withdrawal. Heck, if you've been taking them for a while, you stop now, you'll probably find that your problems with sleep will increase, because the brain has rebalanced itself in the presence of the sleeping medication, and now you're no longer taking it, and the poor brain is a little bit out of balance, and it's going to take some days, even a few weeks, to return to its natural state. So if you speak with your doctor, the doctor will, in some cases, wean you off of the sleeping medication. And ideally, your doctor will also discuss with you ways to intervene and to help yourself sleep without needing a chemical to do so.
So what have you found? What are the top things that you think are associated with insomnia in people over 50?
What a fabulous question. You see, that's why I just love now to be focused entirely on this matter. First off, sleep is not just the absence of being awake. It's a very complicated, dynamic process in the brain. In a typical night's sleep, there's a series of events that happen in the brain. I imagine it rather like an orchestral performance. The brain waves are changing through the night, and even the characteristic brain cells, the astroglial cells, are expanding and contracting, allowing the brain to flush itself clean with the cerebrospinal fluid. This is all very mainstream understanding now. So it's a complex process. And as it is in complex processes, there's many different factors can interfere. As mature people, we're often dealing with, without realizing it, we're dealing with medications that have as their side effect sleep problems. So that's sometimes overlooked. So I put that right at the outset. The average person over 65 is taking 5 medications. And even if you're just taking 1 or 2, check the package in which your medication comes and notice, is it possible that sleep problems are a side effect of your medication?
So that's the classic, you take a pill to fix another pill.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. I am not opposed to pills. Goodness sakes, I would be a fool to do so. But it's taking them when it's appropriate and avoiding them when it is not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how much do you think stress
Yes.
plays versus for somebody over 50, let's say, versus somebody under 50? What role do you think stress has?
Well, stress is, well, the sleep scientists tell us that stress, they call it hyperarousal, but it's a physiological, what they mean by hyperarousal is the physiological state of stress.
Mm-hmm.
They say that that will almost always be present in situations of chronic insomnia. On the other hand, maybe we've just had a little dietary upset or disappointment at work, something of that nature. We have a few nights bad sleep, and it's not so much stress, but other factors are involved. But if we have a chronic habit of sleep problems, it's very likely that without realizing it, perhaps we're living with a chronic stress state. This can be a low-grade stress state. In fact, we may have been living with a stress state for some years, but as we mature in life, we can become more sensitive to the stress state. And as well, there can be other factors that kind of contribute to making it go over the top.
Okay.
A good way to start with your sleep problem is to go to basics. And the sleep scientists are very keen to tell us about it. You will find advice for what doctors call sleep hygiene. You will find that advice in many popular sources. For example, I have a PDF, Happy Sleep Secrets, in which I list some of the very basic advice that you do find given to us by the science and psychology of sleep. For example, it's valuable to go to sleep or go to bed at the same time and awaken at the same time. Sleep likes regularity. It likes to begin at the same time in the day, and it likes to conclude at the same time in the day. This is rough, of course. But if you have the habit of staying up late some nights and then other nights you're going to bed early, the biological clock is getting confused. It doesn't quite know how to function. So regularity is valuable. And this regularity extends into other life factors too. For example, your sleep likes periods of light during the day and not just sort of switch on a light in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Your sleep will like you to go out into daylight, even bright daylight for, the sleep scientists say maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And it's best if you do it at the same time every day. This also begins to support your sleep clock, your circadian clock, being exposed to light at the same time each day. And as well, you want to have a period of activity, preferably more or less the same time every day. Now, this does not mean you need to get into your fancy attire and go jogging or go to the gym, but it may be that you have the habit of a walk each day or something of that nature. You want the body to move, to shall we say, express itself in some way, And it's again, if you can do that each day, that sets this rhythm of regularity that helps the sleep to entrain as well.
Wow, that's a lot of very valuable information.
Yes, and it's lifestyle, isn't it?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if we pay attention, gosh, we want to go out and get a little sunshine and we want to go out and be active.
Hmm.
And if we make our bedtime a time for calm and reflection, we like that too. And in the
Absolutely.
morning, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, still get up at your regular time. Don't lie in bed hoping to sleep more.
Hmm.
Get up at your regular time, live your life during the day, and the odds are much better then that you will have accumulated some, the scientists call it sleep pressure, and you'll be sleeping better the next night. By contrast, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, you awaken in the morning and you kind of lie there for an hour or two thinking about, gosh, what's wrong with my sleep?
Hmm.
You are lessening the sleep pressure because you're not being active. And so you will not have enough sleep pressure for the subsequent night. Get up, go into life, accumulate the sleep pressure, and you're more likely to sleep the next night.
Right. This is all great information. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Well, just on the theme of light as well, your your body, the circadian clock, is exquisitely sensitive to light. We are at heart, at base, we are animals, we are creatures, and we are creatures very sensitive to light. Uh, in the towards the later part of the day, uh, before there were electric lights and so on, the light tends to get a little bit reddish,
Mhm.
yellowish. Think of a sunset, for example. And the blue light is energizing. So naturally, the blue light lessens as the day proceeds into evening. But we human beings now we're watching screens of various sorts, including your mobile phone or that television, and
Mhm.
this blue light is stimulating. This is a physiological truth that blue light will lessen the release of the sleep hormone. The melatonin is suppressed if we are gazing at blue light. So we're much encouraged at the end of the day to click off all these screens, or some people like to use special glasses which will shield their eyes from the blue light.
That's awesome because we are a generation that deals with screen time, whether it's
Yes.
the TV, the cell phone, the computer,
Oh,
anything.
an interesting study I read just a couple of days ago, a small study, but I believe well executed. They found that individuals who were reading on e-readers for an hour before bed had sleep which was different from the sleep of those who were reading a book,
Mhm.
because again, the e-reader is giving them that blue light. And so, even though they were falling asleep, like the others who were reading the book, their sleep was not as deep. It's fascinating. Who would know? Who would know? So I just like to pass this information on. If you have to choose between an e-reader and
Mhm.
a book, choose the book at bedtime.
Well, one may think that that's a minor thing. If you think of the cumulative effects over time,
Yes,
the things that happen to you if you don't get good sleep, that is
yes.
much more than a minor issue. So everything that you can do to get adequate rest is definitely worthwhile.
I
So
agree, Anne. We want to care for ourselves day by day. We care
absolutely.
for our beloved creatures, our pets, our dogs, and our cats. We care for them. We care for ourselves
Mhm.
consciously, day after day.
Mm. So how can the viewers reach you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Oh, oh, bless me. Uh, Again, I mentioned I call it a pamphlet, a PDF pamphlet,
Mhm.
Happy Sleep Secrets. The subtitle is Seven Ways That Pleasure and Beauty Help Women Sleep After 50. And it's based on the science of sleep, some of that sleep hygiene advice I was giving you earlier. That's free for download. Just go to lucindagift.com. So that's my first name, Lucinda, gift and it will be there for you to download, and that will sign you up to my email list. And you'll come into the Joyful After 50 email list, and we'll send you emails. And that would be a way to come into my world. I'm also available, of course, by email. I like to meet people, and that's you can check that out at my website, lucindasykesmd.com. You go to lucindasykesmd.com, and there's even a form there that you can let me know that you're interested to know more.
Right. And I'm going to put this information at the end of the video and also in the description as well.
Yes. Yes, I really wish the audience well with their sleep. It's so important, especially for the second half of life. Yes.
We have so many challenges at that time in life. So everything that we can do to minimize those things. And also, the information that you gave about the link with Alzheimer's disease, that is profound.
Isn't that disturbing,
incredible.
Anne? It's so
Very
disturbing.
so. People really do need to know that.
Yes. And we know now that just lack of sleep more broadly undermines mental health. So it's a very serious area. I'm so glad to be able to speak with you today and pass the word.
I'm so glad that you came on. Thank you so very much. And you have a blessed day.
Thank you. And to your audience as well. Thank you.